What distinguishes sex from gender? A lot of people, and I bet some people in this room, don't know the difference. Sex is determined by an individual's primary sex characteristics, while gender is the values and characteristics associated with a particular sex, according to psychologist Cordelia Fine and other sources. As feminist and other activist organizations gain recognition and rejection alike, the issue of gender inequality and gender roles is often brought into the spotlight, making it important to have information about the biological roots of gender roles, the societal role in perception of gender, and the media's role in the perception and perpetuation of gender roles. Let's take a look at the possible biological influences on why gender roles may exist. We all know that traditional gender roles identify women as being nurturing and emotional, while men are aggressive and dominant. But are these stereotypes supported by biology? The female sex typically has a larger corpus callosum, which carries messages between the emotional right hemisphere of the brain and the verbal left hemisphere of the brain. Due to the female's brain ability to communicate readily between hemispheres, this leads females to have greater intuitivity and emotional communication skills. Hormones can also play a big role in the difference of the sexes. Testosterone, a hormone more prevalent in males than females, is responsible for many qualities that most consider masculine: competitiveness, aggressiveness, and greater libidos. The female sex produces a large quantity of a hormone known as oxytocin, which promotes bonding and affection and is released during childbirth and breastfeeding and is said to promote bonding between a mother and a child, according to psychologists. Those are some biological influences on why gender roles and stereotypes may exist. Now let's look at the societal influences. There's no arguing that society and culture shapes our values and personal beliefs, but does this also hold true about perceptions of gender? A sociological perspective on gender roles suggests that they are learned behavior and are linked more closely to cultural values than biological traits, according to sociologist Amy Blackstone. This is known as social constructionism. Michael S. Kimmel, sociologist and author, teaches that boys and girls are socially conditioned to adopt socially accepted gender-specific behaviors from birth. For example, many infants' rooms and items are decorated differently depending on the sex of the child. Male babies' items are often more adventurous, featuring cars, planes, trucks, and sports, while female babies' items are often more passive, featuring flowers, dolls, stuffed animals, and dress-up toys. Oftentimes, children, especially males, are forbidden from stepping out of the gender boundary that society creates for them. In the book Sex and Temperament in Three Primitive Societies, the author, social anthropologist Margaret Mead, focused on 3 societies within Papua New Guinea that held vastly different gender roles than what we see in the United States today. The Arapesh people, regardless of gender, were all gentle, passive, and emotionally warm. Both shared the duty of child rearing, and aggressiveness was discouraged in both sexes. In contrast to the Arapesh, the Mundugamor tribe people were, regardless of all gender, all aggressive, violent, and emotionally detached. Mothers were rarely the nurturing type and despised childbearing and rearing. The third culture that Mead observed was the Chambuli. The males held the nurturing role and adorned themselves with jewelry, while females held all leadership positions and were also the initiators of physical relationships. Despite the great differences between these New Guinea cultures, there's one similarity that ties them all. They all believed that men and women were the way they were due to their biology and that their sex determined their personalities. In recent years, the media has become a profound influence on children and adults alike. Does the media perpetuate the ideas of traditional gender roles? Despite making up half of the world population, female representation in the media is low. In a study conducted by Associate Professor Stacy Smith of USC Annenberg and Amy Granados of USC Marshall, out of 400 top-grossing films released between 1990 and 2006, for every 1 female character, there was 2.71 male characters. Similarly, in a single week of children's television, 1,034 shows depicted 1.72 males for every female. With children spending over 6 hours a day consuming media, according to a 2007 study, media depiction and representation of females can affect the way children and even adults think about gender. According to Smith and Granados, as well as other studies on the subject, several negative effects can be seen in children from lack of representation. Lack of representation in the media has been proven to lower children's self-esteem. Lack of female representation in the media may also contribute to the idea that men are more valued than women. Due to the gendered occupation depictions in media, children may come to believe that certain careers are inappropriate or unattainable for their gender. Lastly, the sexualization and focus on attractiveness of females in the media can lead to the idea that females are valued for their looks over anything else. The media's depiction of gender roles can lead to the perpetuation of biased and hurtful gender roles. In summary, biological differences between the sexes, societal values and norms, and representation in the media can all affect how gender roles are established, perceived, and perpetuated. Now that you know the influencing factors of gender roles and stereotypes, which factor do you think has the most influence on modern-day perception of gender? Thank you.